An error occurred. Wait a moment, then try again.
Try it again. Yeah, maybe end stream and then start back.
Okay, we are live. Yes. Well, hello. Welcome to our Cyber Corner chat series, How to Hack-Proof Your Business. 15 ways to protect your business from a cyber attack. My name is Melanie Padron, aka your go-to cybersecurity girl. I'm also the Director of Business Development at IT Architects. We are an MSP, a managed services provider with a security-first mindset. So we focus heavily on proactive cybersecurity to help businesses minimize and avoid damage from cyber attacks. As always, I'm joined by our resident cybersecurity super sleuth, Marcus Treasure. He's also our cybersecurity officer. How are you today, Marcus?
I'm doing great. Thanks for asking.
Good. Well, I'm excited to start this new series. It has actionable steps that businesses can take to protect themselves from cyber attacks. And so each week, we're going to discuss one of the 15 topics. So let me just put this up on the screen so everybody can take a look here. 15 ways to protect your business from a cyber attack. So each week, we're going to talk about one of these 15 topics. And this week, we're covering cybersecurity assessments. And then right after, we're going to go into kind of a section where we're going to talk about like the newest hack of the week. I swear every week we get some new hack or some new scam. And so we're going to talk about them. And this week, actually it was just a few days ago, we were notified of a sophisticated spear phishing scam, spear phishing. And we were notified. And so we want to warn everyone about that this week. But first, before we get too serious, you know, my favorite way to start things is always with a little humor. So, Marcus,
Always.
I have a cybersecurity Easter joke for you, if you can believe it. Are you ready to laugh?
I'm ready.
I know you're laughing at me already. Okay. Why did the Easter Bunny become a hacker?
Tell me.
He heard it was the best way to hop into systems undetected.
Oh. I like it.
Okay, thanks for laughing with me on those. You put up with a lot of my corners. You know, cybersecurity is so boring, and most like experts are too. I just like to put a little personality into things. All right, so cybersecurity risk assessments. Let's just dive in. You know, this is a subject near and dear to us at IT Architects, and as the infographic points out, a security assessment establishes like a baseline or a snapshot inside an organization. It identifies security gaps and potential vulnerabilities that, if not addressed, could lead to some serious consequences. And I liken it to going to the doctor for a checkup to proactively look inside your body for issues that could lead to illness or disease later. But, you know, let's just start by talking about what a risk assessment is. So Marcus, you run all the security assessments here at ITA. You get the real life results that the tools in our security stack identify and return to us. So can you just give us an explanation, maybe a more technical one than what I have?
Yeah, absolutely. So we use the ZSRA to help identify vulnerabilities and security gaps inside a customer's infrastructure. It's going to uncover things. We like to call them our 4 pillars. So your people, your applications, your network, and your data. We look across those items to find gaps and vulnerabilities. Things like team members that are vulnerable to phishing attempts. So we do some phishing simulations.
Yeah.
We'll look at just, you know, are your applications patched?
Yep.
Are your OSs patched? Unauthorized login attempts from to your network or your Office 365, things like that. And then, you know, where your data is stored, is that encrypted? Is it able to be stolen? And then we also look at things like passwords stored unencrypted on the workstation, things like that.
Yep.
And we always like to say prevention is better than the cure. So, you know, understanding where you're at today is going to help you plan, budget, to get to a better security posture for the future.
Yeah, that's a good explanation. You sound like you've said that before. As cybersecurity specialist, risk assessments are like literally the starting point for everything we do to help a business get pointed in the right direction and then a plan of action for moving forward to improve that overall cyber resiliency. I mean, that's what it's all about. And I love analogies. I gave one a minute ago, but let me give you a couple of more. So businesses come to us for solutions to protect their business and keep it healthy. So we start with a risk assessment to see inside their infrastructure. This is similar to like going to the doctor before you have heart surgery to get an angiogram of your blood vessels before he cuts open your body. I mean, you want him to know where those weaknesses are and where those vulnerabilities are. Or a dentist getting an x-ray of your tooth before he drills into your mouth and gets rid of a cavity or a root canal. I mean, he wants to see inside what he's dealing with. And that's exactly what a risk assessment does for a business. And then that business owner has the information that they need to decide how they manage those risks. Do you want the heart surgery? Do you want the root canal? You need that x-ray and that angiogram first so that you can decide how you want to handle those weaknesses, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and one of the reasons I think it's so important is because on average, it takes 120 days to identify that a compromise has occurred and that a bad actor like has been in your system or is still in your system. And that's a lot of time for a criminal to hang out and get the lay of the land, learning the systems, getting familiar with the environment. And, let me tell you, when the criminals come knocking, like we're at a war together and we need to know your infrastructure better than the bad guys do because they've been in there studying it too. Marcus, like, I don't know, what would you say are some of the key benefits from like regular security assessments?
Yeah. So as a business owner, you're going to get to understand and identify your security gaps. And we'll help you prioritize those. So it's not just, okay, here's all the gaps and you figure it out. We're going to help you identify maybe what are some of the lower hanging fruit that you can solve immediately, or critical vulnerabilities that need to be patched or need to be resolved immediately to protect your business. And then maybe some future planning. So prioritization is important to us. And then we're going to teach you and instruct you in ways to protect your assets. Because we're going to help you identify where are those maybe unencrypted files on your network that might contain sensitive data. Let's lock those down. Let's protect those. Another piece, number 3 here, would be complying with regulations. So if your industry is subject to something like HIPAA or FTC safeguards or PCI, we're going to help you understand where you're at in relation to those regulations. And then obviously helping you meet those requirements going forward. And then finally, just helping you improve efficiency. So we'll help you, identify those vulnerabilities so that they're known, resolved, and then costly downtime and things like that can be avoided since we already know what's there and can help you fix those things.
Yeah. I want to go back to a point you made on complying with those regulations. Those FTC safeguards, the SEC is cracking down on those. Now they're not just safeguards that are in place that non-banking financial institutions have to comply with, but there's this timeline. You have to, if you've been compromised, if any type of your data has been exposed, you have to report that to the appropriate state or to, the appropriate reporting agency within a certain time. And I've heard recently that some of the criminals have, when a company hasn't reported in time, the criminal gang has reported to the SEC, hey, we're in your system and you didn't report it. You're not paying our ransom yet. So now like they're tattling on themselves to the governing agencies, which is then actually making those safeguards even more strong, giving them some teeth and some grit and some consequence behind them.
Yeah, it's surprising how that works out. They try to look for any way to have leverage over their target.
Yeah.
But yeah, exactly. I mean, because we know regulation doesn't always result in fines and penalties, but yeah, it will be leveraged in some form or fashion.
Mm-hmm. And also, you mentioned helping avoid costly downtime. I read that the average downtime after a ransomware event is 20 days, like 3 weekish, 3 weeks. Like 20 days. That's a long time to be down. Like, what would that do to, like, if we thought through that, what would that do to a business to be down for 20 days? That's costly.
Yeah, I mean, it obviously can really impact. It depends on what you're relying upon technology-wise in your business. If you can find ways to operate within that 20 days, but it's definitely going to impact you. And in some instances, I'm sure it'll put people out of business. But yeah, it's scary.
Well, even just recently, like we've seen the difference between a company that had an attempted attack. They were down for 5 days for the forensics investigation. Once we had the all clear, we were able to get them back up and running within 18 hours. Mm-hmm. Versus another one that we've been dealing with who's been battling for over a year to gain full control of their environment. Now, the difference, right, is the first one had our full cybersecurity solution in place. So you got to go down for that investigation. Forensics has to clear the environment. They got to find out how the bad guys got in. They have to make sure they're not still there. That's 5 days is one thing. Mm-hmm. But over a year to not be fully back up and running, that company had some security, but not done right. And I mean, night and day difference. Would you agree?
Oh, yeah. Definitely. And I think being able to accept that, okay, nothing is foolproof.
Yep.
And there's always a chance that, bad actors could get into a system. But having a plan and having a response plan and things in place that, we're going to reach out to incident response or forensics and get these systems back online, as opposed to just, not having a plan and flying by the seat of your pants. So, and then beyond just the plan, improving upon that plan after the fact so that you can be even more efficient the next time something like that happens.
Yeah. You said it, like identifying that initial, how quickly you identify that initial, incident makes all the difference. And having those tools in place to identify that so that you can then isolate it and then get forensics involved. I mean, I think that makes all the difference in the world, because the longer they're in there without you knowing, the more damage they're doing in the meantime.
Yeah.
Okay, so like my takeaway from this first topic of 15 that we're going to talk about over the next few weeks is that these risk assessments are like annual checkups. It's not something you want to skip. It's not something you want to neglect. Just like your health, a company's cybersecurity needs a checkup too. And it's all about catching those potential issues before they turn into major problems. It's preventative medicine for a business. And it's a non-negotiable if a company wants to stay healthy in today's crazy cyber world. Anything else on that topic, or we get to move on?
No, I think we're good. I'm excited for the next 14 too.
Yeah, me too. All right, so let's just move over into our next. Look at how fancy I'm getting. I forgot to throw up my joke graphic, but whatever.
That's okay.
All right, so let's talk about our hack of the week. We get notified every week about a different scam or a different hack. And so, Marcus, I'm actually going to rely on you to explain most of the details of this one. But basically, we were notified this week of a new sophisticated spear phishing. It's not enough that it's phishing. Now it's spear phishing, so the hackers are using legitimate document sharing services that we're all familiar with to deliver malware and to steal credentials and things like that. And some of the companies mentioned were Dropbox, DocuSign, Google Drive, OneDrive, and SharePoint, I think were all listed. So, I mean, using legitimate companies like these creates a false sense of security. It's a real danger for everyone. So let's talk about it. First of all, what exactly is the difference between a regular phishing attack and a spear phishing attack?
Yeah. Okay. So a typical phishing attack, and obviously spear phishing attack is a type of phishing attack, but more broad speaking, right? So a phishing attack is going to be broad, target a large number of people, just kind of spamming a lot to see if they can get a few hits. Mass email messages, it's going to appear that it's from a legitimate source. It doesn't, doesn't have to, but that's typically what we see these days. Phishing emails, they're containing generic greetings, requests for personal information or credentials. And the goal is to lure as many victims as possible. You'll see a lot more of this in you'll see both in the business side and in the personal side, but a lot of the texts and things that we've talked about in the past, those are forms of phishing that are just going to be blasted out to millions of texts, or phone numbers or whatever, as opposed to a spear phishing attack, which is going to be specifically targeted at a individual or a role within a company, something like that, where they're looking to target a specific individual with a specific message. They're going to do a lot more research to tailor that content so that it looks more appealing to that individual or that role within a company. They'll use personalized information, which a general phishing attack can do. Use your first name or whatever database they have if they have that information. But they can also look at more tailored to their name, their job title, their recent activities, all to increase credibility. And then just the content itself, it's designed to exploit specific relationships. Again, so kind of what I said before, relationships, events, or interests relevant to the target. And they're going to be more sophisticated and harder to detect in general, just because they're a lot more well thought out. They're not just blasting these things out. They're much more targeted. And, in general, I would think there's more of a return on that time because they can, the bad actors can actually tailor that message versus just, blasting it out to everyone. So.
Interesting. Okay, so let me see if I get this right. So phishing casts this wide net just to catch as many victims as possible, whereas spear phishing, as the name indicates, is targeted and personalized. To plan and research a little bit more. Okay, so tell me more about what's specifically happening though in this scam, so that we can figure out how to spot and avoid it. I read the email, but tell me exactly what's happening.
Okay. So the essential point and thing that is, I guess, most concerning about this is that bad actors are getting into legitimate services and sending these spear phishing attempts through that service. So, like you said, Dropbox, Google Drive, SharePoint, DocuSign, they're using these services as the intermediary between themselves and the target, right? So by using this service, they can get past spam filters and it will look legitimate to the receiver of that email because it's coming from a known service. So as opposed to sending from a domain that they own or they're using for spear phishing that could be already flagged by a spam filter, they're able to bypass that and just get straight to the end user. So the attack begins, I'll just read through this real quick. The attack begins when a real email from a site like Dropbox contains a link to a document hosted on an actual Dropbox page. Since the hackers have compromised this real cloud sharing account, it slips right past the firewalls. When a user accesses that file, they're directed to click on a second malicious link. And these links serve malware or they redirect to a Microsoft 365 login page, which instructs the target to log in with their 365 credentials to view the file. And that would basically steal that token or steal those credentials so that then they can have access to your account. So it sounds like what our partners have seen is it's the legitimate document that is being pushed out contains a malicious link, which is then going to deploy malware or steal credentials. So it's a fairly common thing that we see from email spam. It's just in the live recently, there's been an uptick in these, using the third party intermediary to deliver that as opposed to just going direct via email. One other mention here is that because this malicious link is embedded in a document on the CloudTrail site, it can evade the EDR or the endpoint detection engine that would typically pick that thing up if it was opened in like a Word document or something like that. So because it's in the CloudTrail site, it's a little bit, it's hidden behind that as well.
It's a lot more targeted, a lot more detailed. That's what makes it spear phishing. Yeah.
Yeah, and you could think about, just talking about spear phishing in general, you could think about crafting the actual document, targeting that to someone who might actually be expecting something like that to come in.
Yeah.
Whether it's a contract or it's you can think about all the different roles that expect all these different documents to come through. So.
Yeah, we use those every day in our society. Yeah. Absolutely. I think that's like when it comes to protecting businesses, one of the first places we always focus on is security awareness training, because, I know everybody hates security awareness training, the weekly videos and the quizzes, but people are the biggest weakness, but it can also be the greatest strength and an amazing first line of defense. And that's why education and communication are the keys. It's important that everybody does their security awareness training.
Yeah.
We always encourage the if you see something, say something mentality, because it literally takes one person clicking on one bad link for disaster. In fact, yesterday, I was so proud of myself. So yesterday I had an example of this proof point, caught this email and quarantined it. So I was already feeling safe about it being where it was, but it kind of seemed similar to this to me. It used, I think, Mailgun as the company, but the subject line said signature required. It looked like it came from our company, but I was suspicious, and I immediately reached out to you. I'm not sure that it was an actual example of what we're talking about here, but our email caught it. I was educated. I was suspicious. We always say politely paranoid. I love that.
Oh, yeah.
And I saw something and I said something. And so, other than that, like the employee awareness and kind of following that pattern of being suspicious and reaching out and seeing something, saying that, what can companies do? Let's give some steps here, some actionable steps.
Yeah. One thing that they can do is obviously have a good spam filter in place that detects these things ahead of time. Like you said, you went and looked through your logs. And that's great to be able to do after the fact, so you can know what to look out for. But it's also great when it doesn't even hit the inbox. So you don't have to determine that yourself. The system does it for you. So consider those controls. You can either alert or detect emails containing links to specifically the cloud-hosted sites that we discussed. So you can add a filter for those or an alert that says, hey, be cautious of that. Also, you could, let's see here. So let me see. Okay, you can schedule a security assessment with our cyber team. We can take a look at your email controls specifically, or we can look at other potential gaps. And I would just say educate your end users in general, letting them know, alerting them of things like this going on. When we see an uptick in these type of activities, we're going to let our customers know that, hey, just be on the lookout for this. And that's a lot of times a heads up is going to do a great deal of good help. And just keeping those end users educated, doing their phishing awareness, and all those type of things.
Yeah. Well, gosh, if that doesn't wrap things up like a nice little Easter basket with a bow, I don't know what does. I hope everybody's found a little bit of value in what we discussed. These weekly lives are meant to be just kind of short, informational interviews. If you have, please help us out. Like, comment, share, just engage. It helps more people see the content we create, which means more businesses and the people behind those businesses are safe, which, I mean, it also increases the overall cyber resiliency of our country, which is just what this is all about. We're hearing about it, just attacks every day from everywhere, from our municipalities to our school districts. I mean, we all are in this together, and we have to, like Marcus said, keep the awareness up. Remember, some of the best things that you can do to proactively protect your business are implement strong security measures. Regularly update your software. I know that's a pain in the butt to do it, but do it. Update your software. Educate your employees and have a plan. As Marcus said, have a plan for responding. IT architects can help. We've stood by our customers for over 20 years. You can count on us to be there too. Reach out today. Get that risk assessment started right now. Until next week, hey, happy Easter. Enjoy your holiday time with family and friends, and we'll see you next week. We hope to catch you on the safe side. Marcus, thank you.
Happy Easter.
All right, take care.